Hey, a lot of stuff happening.
An office entrusted to her by the President of the United States. We have had an exciting afternoon in store, and we thank all of you for being here to show our special guest a warm and enthusiastic welcome. Before we officially begin, we had the privilege of hearing the beautiful music of flutist Tim Navaquaya. His father, Joyce Doctate Navaquaya, was named a National Heritage Fellow by the National Endowment for the Arts in 1986, one of our nation's highest honors in the arts. Having Tim with us is a meaningful reminder of the generations of artistic excellence and cultural stewardship that continue to enrich Oklahoma and the nation. His father joined an esteemed but small group of only 7 Oklahomans who have received this prestigious honor, including Georgianne Robinson, Vanessa Gompe Jennings, Bruce Caesar, Fred Sudel, Wanda Jackson, and Anita Fields. Today, Tim continues his father's extraordinary legacy through his own work as a visual artist, musician, and ambassador. Tim, thank you for sharing your gifts with us today. Please join me in thanking Tim.
Good afternoon, everybody. It certainly is an honor to be here, represent the great state of Oklahoma. So, anyway, you sit back, meditate, and enjoy this journey together. certainly fortunate to have learned from him and to be able to share it. So I hope you're enjoying this. Southern Plains beadworkers, and this is one of the last instruments that we both collaborated over. And unfortunately, we lost his life. So anyway, this one stands for me. And this one here is a river cane flute, and this is from the Choctaw Nation, and it has a very, what we call a traditional sound. So.
Thank you so much, Tim, for sharing your gifts and your talents with us this afternoon. Makes it really special. Thank you. This afternoon, we are honored to have quite a few special guests who have joined for this program. As we get underway, I would like to take a moment to recognize them. First, as the chair of the Oklahoma Arts Council, I have the privilege of serving with 14 other volunteer individuals from across the state, providing citizen oversight for the official state arts agency. I know some of my fellow council members are here today. Can I please ask you to stand and be recognized? In addition, if you are representing leadership of the the Oklahoma Native Nations. Would you please stand so that we may recognize and thank you? We also have members of the staffs of Oklahoma's congressional delegation. Their commitment to being here on behalf of our elected representatives in Washington, D.C. is very much appreciated, and it underscores the significance of a visit by the chairman of the National Endowment for the Arts. If you are here on behalf of your congressional delegation, would you please stand and be recognized? A visit by the chairman of the National Endowment for the Arts is a momentous occasion. It has been more than a decade since our state has hosted an NEA chairman, and for several reasons, this visit holds a great deal of meaning. The chairman's visit coincides with recent celebrations, programs, and events happening nationally and locally, where the arts and the chairman's leadership have been on the forefront. From the centennial of Route 66 and July's Great American State Fair to the first ever Oklahoma Arts and Health Summit and our continued work in creative aging and the arts and the military. There have been numerous occasions and initiatives to focus on recently, and they have all been possible by the work of NEA. Since their founding in 1965, the National Endowment for the Arts and the Oklahoma Arts Council have worked in partnership to expand access to the arts and strengthen communities across our state. For more than 6 decades, this enduring federal-state partnership has enriched Oklahoma's cultural fabric, fueled creativity, and demonstrated the profound impact of sustained public investment in the arts. Today's conversation will touch on its history and past progress. It will focus on the work being done now under the chairman's leadership. It is extending the exceptional qualities of the arts further into areas of need in our country. We are excited to have so many arts leaders from across the state gathered to hear firsthand where we are as an essential sector in 2026 and where we are headed as an increasingly vital part of our nation in the decades to come. The setting for today's conversation is especially meaningful here at the First Americans Museum, at the crossroads of America, and within Oklahoma City's Growing Horizons District. We are surrounded by stories of resilience and creativity. It is our hope that this place reflects the optimism and opportunity you will experience through your visit to Oklahoma. To share more about the story and vision for this area of the city, we are honored to welcome Chickasaw Nation Secretary of Culture and Humanities, Lisa John.
Hello, this is Hope Jaboa, Lisa John. I am the Secretary of I'm Secretary of the Department of Culture and Humanities at the Chickasaw Nation. And on behalf of the Chickasaw Nation, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Horizons District. The Horizons District is anchored by the O'Connor Resort and Indoor Water Park and the First Americans Museum, and represents an exciting addition to Oklahoma City. And has anybody been to O'Connor? Isn't that great? It's an awesome place. It's a destination where immersive entertainment, cultural education, and captivating surroundings come together to create an unforgettable experience for visitors of all ages. Also located within the Horizons District is the Exhibit C Gallery, one of Oklahoma City's premier First American art galleries. Proudly owned by the Chickasaw Nation, Exhibit C celebrates the remarkable talents of First American artists by showcasing and selling fine art while connecting visitors directly with the stories, cultures, and creativity of indigenous peoples. The opening of O'Connor Resort in 2025 further complemented the First Americans Museum, focused on cultural experiences while connecting visitors to many entertainment and recreational opportunities along the Oklahoma River. The Horizons District creates a destination that welcomes visitors not only from our region, but from across North America and around the world, providing meaningful opportunities to experience the rich culture collaboration and investment in Native artists and cultural programming, we can strengthen Indigenous voices and celebrate the unique cultures for future generations. The Chickasaw Nation shares a strong bond with the Oklahoma Arts Council and the National Endowment for the Arts in encouraging and supporting artists. Chickasaw Nation Governor Emeritus Bill Anatoly often states, "A rising tide raises all ships." That philosophy reflects our beliefs that when we, tribal nations, state and national agency, and artists work together, we all benefit. Supporting artists is one of the top priorities of the Chickasaw Nation, as we know that art has the power to unite, educate, and celebrate. Through the arts, we tell our story from our perspective. It has been a pleasure to work with the First Americans Museum and the Oklahoma Arts Council on projects that embrace Chickasaw artists while supporting the broader community of First American and Oklahoma artists. Through partnerships like these and through destinations such as Exhibit C, we create new opportunities for Indigenous artists to share their work with broader audiences, strengthening both cultural preservation and economic opportunities. Whether exploring the First Americans Museums, visiting Exhibit C Gallery, or enjoying the amenities of Ohana Resort, guests encounter a destination that celebrates our diverse cultures. Chairman Mary Ann Carter understands that arts do far more than entertain. They connect people, strengthen communities, and ensure every culture can tell their own story. Throughout her leadership of the NEA, or National Endowment for the Arts, Chairman Carter has championed the idea that Americans' strength is reflected in the many voices, traditions, and artistic expressions that make up our nation. She lifts up artists from the underserved populations, making it possible for people to experience their beautiful creativity, from Native Americans to dancers, and musicians to dancers, storytellers, and cultural artists representing communities from across the country. Together, these artists celebrate the remarkable range of American creativity and rich cultural traditions that continue to shape our national identity. Chairman Carter has also reminded us that the arts represents the very best of our country because they bring people together through a shared appreciation of beauty, joy, creativity, and our common humanity. Those values resonate deeply within the Chickasaw Nation. We are grateful for her commitment to supporting Native artists, honoring the unique cultures, and ensuring Native American voices continue to have a place on our nation's stage. Again, welcome to the Horizons District. We look forward to a wonderful conversation, and thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Our Secretary John, I should say. We are honored that you have joined us. Today's event would not be possible without the gracious generosity of the First Americans Museum. On behalf of the Oklahoma Arts Council, I want to express our utmost thanks to the board and staff at the First Americans Museum. Before we begin, I want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to CEO Kelly Mosteller and the entire leadership team and staff of the First Americans Museum and their extraordinary hospitality and partnership in making today's event possible. While Kelly could not be with us today, the board and staff provided their gracious hospitality and thoughtful collaboration for today's conversation. We're deeply grateful to gather in this remarkable place. If you are a staff member of FAM, would you please stand and be recognized? To invite Shoshana Wasserman, Deputy Director of the First Americans Museum, to the stage.
Welcome to your First Americans Museum. It is a great honor to have your presence here with us today. This is a place where we experience our shared American history. Some of our tribes have always called this place home. Long before this was the state of Oklahoma, the Caddo, the Wichita, and affiliated tribes, they were residing in this area. We saw grass lodges along the Oklahoma River from the Wichita and affiliated tribes. We saw our cattle mountains all throughout this part of the country. It is also important to recognize other tribes that had a historic relationship with this place. These include the Apache, the Comanche, Kiowa, Osage, Quapaw, and Tonkawa. We also acknowledge my relatives, who were the Muskogee and Seminole, who were assigned the very land that we are on today through treaties. Today, there are 39 distinct nations in Oklahoma. We are as diverse and culturally and linguistically different as the nations all over the European continent. Many of us are not in Oklahoma by choice, but today, after nearly 200 years, our histories and our cultural lifeways are interwoven into this beautiful place we call Oklahoma. First Americans Museum is truly one place, many nations. The Choctaw people called this land Oklahoma. Oklahoma loosely translates to red butte. It is an honor to host this conversation today. I have always been taught by my elders that we will never have this same gathering of people together ever again. And so those who are meant to be here today are here. And so we want to cherish this beautiful moment together. Tim, with your beautiful music today, you have drawn us together, and I think that you have drawn some of our ancestors and some of our relatives here with us today, who have always protected this land base since November 1st, 2005, when we first asked them to come onto this site for the ground blessing ceremony. My hope is that we can each recognize how special this moment and this conversation is today, and that each and every one of you leave today with something very personal, something very meaningful that you can carry out into your own lives. And with that, as we do traditionally in most of our ceremonies or in most of our social gatherings, today your journey began when you arrived off of the main road. You began that symbolic east-west journey. Our doorways always open to the east. And so we always want to acknowledge that higher being, or the creator as we know him to be, when you arrived today, that very beautiful sculpture that you saw in the courtyard with that hand raised up to the creator, that welcomes everybody and brings everyone together. And today, we have a member of our staff who is a culture bearer, who keeps our songs, who holds our drum beat, and who holds our hearts. And he is going to open this today with a prayer song. So please help me welcome John Hamilton.
Thank you so much to the NEA and OAC here. As Shoshana said, opening up in a traditional native way with a song, prayer. The song's going to be a prayer and a song in one. It's going to be an appreciation song that's going to hopefully bring the good spirit to each and every one of y'all to this event here and to the mission and priorities of what's meant to be from this gathering here today. And so I want to thank everybody here today. This is going to be an appreciation song composed by County singer Herb Jackson. And just show and uplift and thank our Creator for everything that we have here today. So here we go.
grateful for your generosity and sharing your gifts, and for helping us continue to bring our time together of reflection, respect, and community. So thank you both, Sean and Tim. I'm Executive Director of the Oklahoma Arts Council, and I'm so thrilled to see everyone here. I know, just like me, you're ecstatic that this day has come to fruition. I'm so happy to see familiar faces as you are the artists, educators, cultural leaders, partners, nonprofit professionals, volunteers, philanthropists, and advocates who work every day, often without fanfare, to ensure that the arts continue to flourish in Oklahoma. Your commitment, resilience, and belief in the power of the arts are the reason today's visit is so meaningful. Since receiving the word that Chairman Carter would be visiting our state, I have been eagerly waiting for today. And in just a few moments, we're going to move into the program. I also want to continue in a spirit of gratitude and appreciation, and so there are a few people I need to thank for being here with us today and bringing this event to fruition. Barbara mentioned that we would have many federal delegation representatives with us, and we also may have some state legislators in attendance as they were invited, those that were able. So as our agency closely works with members of the state legislature to invest in the arts, the presence of them being here today with us is very meaningful. If you are an elected official and you were able to join us today, I want to take this opportunity to recognize you if you're here. If you're here, would you please stand if you have anyone? You may not. But I don't ever want to miss an opportunity to thank those state legislators, right? You never stop, don't thank the people who are making sure that your work can happen. A few other individuals I know have joined us today, and I would like to thank them. Barbara earlier mentioned the distinct recognition of the NEA National Heritage Fellowship Award winners, and those being recognized in that way. And we are honored to have two National Heritage Fellows with us today, I believe. Anita Fields and Bruce Caesar. Are they here with us today? And if they would stand, yes. So significant. But we get to recognize you and your presence. Earlier, we had the chance to thank the FAM leadership team for hosting us. In addition to the incredible team here at FAM, two of the museum's board members are here, and I want to especially thank them. FAM Chairman Greg Wadley and Dr. Ross Mulcair. Would you please stand so we can recognize you if you're here with us today? Finally, putting together an itinerary of visits in site and within communities, as well as today's event, couldn't be possible without our extraordinary team at the Oklahoma Arts Council. So over the past few weeks, the staff have been diligently prioritizing this event, knowing how meaningful it would be for all of us here in this room. I'd especially like to thank Joel Gavin, our Director of Marketing and Communications, Caitlin Kinnaman, our Executive Administrator, and Scott Cowan, our Web and Publications Director, for all the hard work that they put in today. But they did not work in isolation. They spearheaded the planning effort while being supported by our phenomenal team. Would members of the Oklahoma Arts Council staff please wave? Many of them are probably not seated, they might be outside. If you're here, as Executive Director of the Oklahoma Arts Council, I have the privilege of witnessing every day how the arts transform lives, strengthen communities, and create connections across every part of our state. Chairman Carter's visit is significant because it brings national recognition to the extraordinary work happening here in Oklahoma. Work made possible through, as Barbara mentioned, the long-standing partnership between the NEA and the Oklahoma Arts Council, as well as the collective efforts of Oklahoma's 39 distinctive First American nations, our local communities, artists, educators, and countless arts and cultural organizations. We all know that we can't do this alone. It takes all of us together. This visit is more than just celebrating what has already been accomplished. It is an opportunity to share the story of Oklahoma's creative spirit and to highlight how the arts bring people together, preserve our cultures, inspire innovation, and contribute to thriving communities. Chairman Carter's visit recognizes our collective work, so I hope you're feeling seen and recognized and appreciated. And she's also going to give us insight into the work of our nation and how we can be part of that inner fabric of moving the arts its true impact is measured in the number of lives changed and communities strengthened. Now serving in her second term as chairman, Mary Ann Carter has dedicated her time, talent, and leadership to ensuring the arts remain an essential part of American life. On behalf of the Oklahoma Arts Council and the thousands, millions of lives in our state who have been changed and enriched through your work, thank you. Thank you for being here. So at this time, without further ado, we're going to get into the fun part and get to know Mary Ann a little closer, hear from her. So I'd like to invite Chairman Mary Ann Carter to join me on the stage. Well, today is such an exciting day. I have butterflies, and I normally don't have butterflies when I speak, but I can't help it. As you can tell, I'm stumbling a little bit because you're
I'm so disappointed because I'm so easygoing.
I know you are, so I appreciate you. And the fact that we are going to be able to have a conversation with you, the authenticity of who you are and what you bring is so important to this role because we talk a lot about the arts not feeling accessible. And I think in your role, you have really worked hard to bring and reduce those barriers and make the arts for all. So I really appreciate that. You have now had the opportunity to lead the National Endowment for the Arts during 2 presidential administrations. Looking back at both terms and now this one that you're in, how has your perspective on this role changed?
That's such an interesting question. I can tell you some things that have changed, not necessarily the perspective. I walked in January of 2025 way more confident than I did in January of 2017. And the reason I say that is I'm not an artist. I have no background. I don't have an MFA in arts history. And I like to say I'm the audience, not the artist. And the audience is important too, don't get me wrong. But I think giving you a little briefing on why I'm here is important because it represents my viewpoint, why I'm here, why I think this is important. When my daughter was 7, she was diagnosed with dyslexia. And it wasn't like, oh, she sees a couple letters backwards. It was numbers are backwards, letters are reversed, words bounce on the page. I was told she would never learn in a traditional school environment. And that, I had to rethink her education. And so I did. I mean, obviously, you do what you have to do. And so I was lucky enough to find a school that specialized in kids with dyslexia. And what they did was they taught English and math and science utilizing the arts. So I'm not talking a performing arts school. I'm talking about a school that figured out how the arts could help kids like mine learn. I'll give you an example. Shoshana, when we were up there, you took us to that little tunnel that people crawl through. It reminded me of this story. When my daughter was in 5th grade, they were learning the digestive system. And most of us, we probably learned from this textbook and this side view of like the face of these really long words that you were like, God, I hope I can memorize them for 2 weeks before the test and then forget them for the rest of my life. So, which is pretty much what I did. But what her teacher did to teach this was the front door of of her classroom, she built Frankenstein's head. And so the kids had to crawl through the door, through Frankenstein's mouth, and then they had put those tunnels, just like you have, all over. And so the kids would crawl through Frankenstein's digestive tract. And so you'd go down and there's the stomach and there's the small intestine and you'd go through it and of course you come out the other end. Well, but this is like real talk, right? And so, but I didn't use curse words yet, But, so my daughter will always remember how the digestive tract works, because she learned it in a way that will stay with her. Now, think about, why do we still today go A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Because there's something about music in the brain. There's something about learning in a visual way, or in an audio way, or in an arts way. So I saw this happen with my daughter. And by the way, my daughter is going to begin her senior year in college this fall. So I'm super happy, because I only have one more year of tuition. That's actually why I'm happy. And then a couple of years later, my father was diagnosed with dementia. And after a few years, we ended up having to put him in a memory care facility. And we wanted a place that we were very comfortable with, as any of us would. So we found a lovely facility that had 2 arts and craft activities a day. In the afternoon, it was a craft, more of a hands-on, maybe ceramics or making cards if it was around a holiday. But in the evening, it was always music. And because I was living in Florida at the time, this is where my dad was, I was able to go fairly often because I was only about 30 minutes away. And there was this pianist, she probably came 4 nights a week or so. And she would play songs from the 1940s, which was, my dad's childhood years. And these lovely people, these beautiful people, some who didn't know their own name or their kid's name, knew the words to every single song from the 40s. Working on the railroad, Bugle Boy, Company C, so watching my daughter and then watching this, so this is all pre me being here. I started getting an interest, and I was really curious, how is it that the arts can do this for people? And so, when the transition team in late 2016 called and said, hey, do you want to work in this administration? And if so, where do you want to work? I said, the National Endowment for the Arts, because I believed I could talk about the arts in a way that a typical conservative Republican couldn't. And I just felt very strongly that I could help the agency, and I could help people understand that the arts aren't elitist, and they're not for a certain group of people. They're for everyone, for every reason. And so I always tell it because I feel like people need to know why I'm here. And I'm here because I believe, because I see, not because I'm an artist in any way, but I understand the power that the arts bring.
I think that's a beautiful segue to us as a state. We're in a rural conservative state, and many of us who work in this space want to connect with local, state, or our federal delegation. We talk about how do you add value to the American people and talking about the arts. What advice would you give all of us working in different facets and disciplines, from small to large communities, from our tribal to our Latino and beyond, all these communities coming together? What would you encourage us to do, and how can we be better messengers on the local level that then support our state as well as the nation?
So messaging is so important. You will never, ever, ever hear me make the argument that the arts are beautiful. The arts are beautiful, but that's not going to influence anyone. So one of the things that I did at the agency when I came the first time around was I changed our branding because the logo said Art Works. It didn't say National Endowment for the Arts. It didn't really say anything that explained who we were. And then I realized that when we did events, we had no branding. Nothing said National Endowment for the Arts anywhere. And if we did have something, it didn't say National Endowment for the Arts, it said NEA. Well, as you know, half the country has a whole different idea of what NEA is, right? National Education Association. So, so just the marketing and the branding was a huge change to be able to get that done. But there are so many ways to talk about it. So one of the things that we changed was we decided, or that we really needed to talk about it economically. It's a return on investment. And so we put together, and these are outside, I just wanted to bring a couple of things to show. We put together state fact sheets for every single state. And it talks about the number of jobs, the amount of money that the arts and culture bring into each state individually, how many workers there are, and how many people participate in a lot of the different arts. And on the back, we have a lot of our grantees, because this is a great sheet that we can give members of Congress, or obviously senators and governors, so they understand the impact that is here. We visited the Cowboy Museum yesterday. They've actually done something very similar also, and their sheets look great. So, you know, economically, what does it mean to your state, your community? Two, I think the biggest way to talk about arts nowadays is arts in the health field. And I'll talk about it in two ways. One is with the military. We have a program called Creative Forces, and it's a therapeutic arts program that helps our wounded men and women in uniform, especially those suffering from TBI, traumatic brain injury, or PTSD. We've been able to expand that program into community grants, so we can also help veterans and their caregivers. There's no one to talk to if you say, we're helping our wounded military and our veterans, that are gonna say, oh, well, why are you doing that? That's a waste, right? I mean, those are the people that any elected official is gonna say, I'm so glad. But then also arts and health. Everyone has aging parents. Everyone, you know, has a child or knows someone who has a child that might have an issue. We all know someone who has had cancer at one time. And so, to me, arts and health is actually where the arts are going. It's where expansion is. It's where opportunity is. And I know, because I have seen what arts and health does, and arts and education, obviously, I sort of make a broad category when you know, I talk about my daughter. But we sometimes forget that we also need to create opportunities for the artists. The artists need to make a living. And the more opportunities we create for them, the better off they're going to be. And then the better off patients are going to be. The better off communities are going to be. So I think the messaging, the way we talk about the arts, return on investment, economics of the arts, arts in our education, students, they're better students. There's lower behavioral problems. There's less absenteeism. We have all this empirical data to show this. And then obviously arts and health, creating better communities and healthier patients. And these are really good talking points and messaging points. And it's really going to be hard to find someone who disagrees with any of those things.
Absolutely. You know, here in this space, we're here at First Americans Museum, and we've had many site visits that have really kind of showcased some of the local traditions across our state and here in Oklahoma City. Much of our identity is found in local traditions, not only in Oklahoma, but in America. The stories, music, craftsmanship, festivals, cultural practices that define what it means to be an American. How do you think preserving our heritage also encourages innovation and creativity for future generations?
So I have been a big fan of traditional arts, heritage arts. In fact, during my first tenure, we made an investment in folk life arts that I was told was the largest investment in 30 years in folk life arts and traditions. And so I think it's really important. I think it's always important that we know where we came from, because how are we going to have any direction on where we're going if we don't know where we came from? And I think everyone, I talk about this when I talk about cultural diplomacy a lot. People are proud of where they're from. They're proud of their heritage, their origins, their art. And we should honor that as opposed to trying to hide it. And so for this year, the Folklife Festival, which is typically 3 or 4 weeks along the National Mall, got moved because of the Great American State Fair. And so what the Smithsonian Folklife Museum decided to do was to go out into all the folklife festivals in the States. And so we helped fund 5 of them, 5 of the biggest ones. And I think they're amazing. I mean, I'm gonna go visit 3 of them and be able to tour them. And so while it's nice to have it in DC, where we can come, how great is it that there are 38 across the nation, and the Smithsonian's going to be funding all 38 to some degree, and obviously, like I said, we're helping with some of them.
It sounds like you're working a lot with the 56 state jurisdictional state arts agencies as a partner, as well as the regional arts organizations. I think there are 6 comprising all of the U.S. How do you see them as the partner? How do they fit into kind of your vision of how this partnership can emerge, and in what ways can they be of value and an asset to spreading the arts across America?
So the 50 states, 6 jurisdictions, and then also 6 regionals. So every state in the country has a government entity, an arts council, except Vermont. It's the only state that doesn't. But we work with a nonprofit group up there. And so 40%, just to give a quick little, I'm sorry to talk federal government bureaucracy, but it might give people a better understanding. So we get an appropriation, and Congress in the appropriation will say, this much money is for administration, salaries, administration, that kind of stuff. And then this much money is for grants. And then 40% of that grant money, no matter what, so say we got $100, $40 of that, no matter what, automatically goes to the states, the jurisdictions, and the regions. And there's a formula. So to keep things simple, let's say Oklahoma gets $1 million based on this formula. The Oklahoma legislature has to then appropriate $1 million because the grant is dollar for dollar. So unlike some of the agencies, we don't just get money out like, oh, here's $1 million. I wish we did, but we don't. But all of our grants are dollar for dollar matches. And so it's really important for local communities. Local communities are more likely to know their state rep and their state senator, right? And then, maybe a mayor is more likely to know the member of Congress that represents that area. But these things matter. So at the state level, the governor and the state senate and the House of Representatives, they need to vote and then sign the legislation for this money. So it's not just a federal government thing. And I'll give you an example. This past year, New Hampshire cut funding to $150,000, which was basically going to just barely cover, well, it would cover the salary of the executive director, but really nothing else. And so she's like Amber, man. She's a smart and a worker and gets things done. So she went around to some of the other New Hampshire state agencies and was able to get money from each of them. So she ended up with $550,000. So we were able to match her $550,000. But if the state doesn't come up with the money, we can't give it. And so it's like throwing money away. So, talking to your state reps and your state senators and your governor if you have access, or your mayors who may, have access. It's important. It's actually really, really important. And so for local communities, that's one of the best ways they can help, is to understand the state has a role to play in this.
absolutely. That one-to-one match is some of our, messaging that we have with state legislators. It's so important that it's required because it helps us in our case making on the state level. We talked about the 56 state jurisdictional, 6 regional. We have 39 distinct tribal nations, First American nations here in the state of Oklahoma. And then there are over 500 in the entire United States. How do you see tribal nations, native nations, independent sovereign communities, and tribal governments? How can they be a partner alongside the National Endowment for the Arts?
Well, I'm really glad you asked this. Because in my first tenure, we actually put together the very first, I'm not going to be able to think of the title of it, but it was Native American Resilience. I'm sorry, I can't remember the exact title, but it was the first time we pulled Native Americans together to let them know all the federal resources that were available to them. And so we pulled in some of the other agencies, and this all came out, by the way, from an executive order by President Trump. And he said, make sure tribal communities know what is available to them. So we pulled together this conference, we pulled in other agencies. There is a paper up on our website. And then afterwards, we put all the resources together, and that's also up on our website. And we then, we added tribal communities into our guidelines. So, for those of you who write your grants, you go up to our site and you review the guidelines. But tribal communities are one of the priorities of this administration. So, I really feel good about a lot of the stuff that we've done. And HBCUs and Hispanic serving institutions actually fit into those categories as well. At the National Endowment for the Arts, we want everyone to know you're welcome to apply. Everyone is welcome to apply. We believe everyone, no matter who they are in America, should have access to the arts. And if you turn in a really good application, you are most likely to be funded. And my staff will kill me if I don't say this. The way to know what a really good application looks like is to sign up to be a panelist on our website. All applications are juried. The agency does not decide who gets money and who doesn't. The American people do. And so an application comes in, and then it is juried. We have 150 panels every year of about 6 people. Each panel gets between 30 and 40 applications that they review, and every application stands on its own. So a museum here is never going to be compared to a museum in New York, because you stand, you rise and fall on your own application. So, serving as a panelist, got to make a plug, because we do about 900 people a year. It will show you what a really good application looks like, and it will help you the next time you have to fill out an application for a grant.
I love that you talked about Oklahomans being panelists, because that means our voices are at the table in determining where funding and priorities go. Kind of moving and looking ahead, we talked a lot about kind of the present. As our nation marks the 250th anniversary, many people are reflecting on where we've been and where we're headed. What role do you believe artists and cultural organizations play in helping tell America's story?
So this might be a good cue. I don't know if our video, yeah, maybe, I don't know. So we went all in on America 250. My father was military, so for me it was a very big deal. We actually went in during my first tenure. So I think we first started meeting with the America 250 group in 2018, and we had all these plans. And then this thing called COVID came, and then Trump lost the election, and so I was out of a job. But I was lucky enough to come back 4 years later, and so So the story of America is, it's a beautiful story. It's wild and it's crazy and there's some horrible things in it. But at the end of the day, it's an amazing story of a country that's only 250 years old. And we wouldn't be there without the arts. Because the arts is really what is best about America, in my opinion. And so when we heard about the Great American State Fair and all the agencies and departments obviously were asked to participate, I knew this was a great chance for us to showcase American arts and some that people would have never seen before. And so again, I don't know if it is teed up, but this kind of will answer your question. Is it teed up?
Welcome to the National Endowment for the Arts Legacy Stage. We gather today to celebrate America 250 with artists whose work reflects not only talent and skill, but also a very unique way of showing what America means to them.
It is amazing that I now can have good art everywhere that I am.
They are the words of Richard Henry Lee, that these united colonies are in the right, ought to be free and independent states.
As we mark America's 250th birthday, it feels especially meaningful. We saw history, we saw pride, and we saw hope.
And you may have recognized Kyle Dillingham and Peter Marcus, and they're right up there in the corner. My best friends. I had dinner with them the other night.
You can tell how you brought them back every night, right?
Yeah, so we had actually only booked them for 4 nights or 4 days, and we loved them. The crowd loved them, so they had to go home, but then we brought them back, and we had them close out each night, every day for I guess the last 7 days or something like that. So
No surprise that the Aluma artists were the star, right? Right.
But you saw a little bit of everything there, and to me that is what America is, and I'm really proud of our participation in the fair. And everything you saw in that we did. The face painting, the passports. I brought. We have a couple extras if anyone wants one, but this was the passport to the fair. And every state is listed, and you would walk around to the different pavilions and get it stamped. Very popular item. The whiteboard, we had an inside space, and then obviously we had the stage, as you saw. And I'm not sure I would change anything. I was proud of how we presented. I was proud of who we presented. I think it was very representative of America. And so I was so proud of our America 250 participation.
You've been going to site visits here for the last couple that's going to influence your work in Washington, D.C.?
So it's funny you say this because, and you've overheard some of my conversations with people. I have seen things in museums that I was like, I really like that, and you know what, I need to suggest that to so-and-so. And then just this morning when we were in one of the places, I said, can I make a suggestion to you? And he was like, yes! And so I made my suggestion. So what I always like to take back is things that I haven't seen before, ideas that I know others can benefit from. I do believe the best idea is the stolen one that you know already works. And so, and I really felt a lot of innovative, especially with a lot of the immersive ideas. The other thing that two things. This was actually funny. I love how proud everyone is of where they live and where they work. So I went to dinner the first night I was here, and I went to one of the older buildings, and the person at the hostess stand said, well, have you ever been here before? And I said, no. He immediately launched into a history of the building, of everything. I loved it. And I was just like, oh, and then I started asking questions. And then the next morning I went to breakfast, and the woman said, have you ever been here? And I said, no. And she said, oh, let me tell you about the building. And I was like, I love this. Like, that is so cool. More people should be like that. So, so I love the hospitality and the friendliness. But I am also amazed at the talent here in Oklahoma City. So just the Cowboy Museum, just as an example, Pat who runs it, and then Bob, who's sort of, I guess, one of his right-hand guys, they both came from Disney and Apple. So the way they think about what a museum is going to be way different than, you know, someone who's been there 30 years. And I thought, I just found that so interesting that so many people I met who are involved in the arts had moved outside of Oklahoma for a while, and they have all, like, they're all deciding to come home. And so the talent that they're bringing and their experiences, I mean, Oklahoma City is benefiting from it every single day.
Absolutely. I've been able to observe you for the last couple of days, and as John Kennedy said, you are great at asking very curious, inquisitive questions. What is the question that I didn't ask you that you wish I would have asked you?
So, I'll tell you a question I get asked a lot is, if you could change anything, what would it be? And I'll go back, think about the beginning of my speech, or my talk here when I was talking about my daughter. If I could change anything in the world, I would change the way we teach teachers how to teach. Because for my child, the way she learned was a necessity. But take that traditional child who can sit in a classroom and learn by textbook, but give them that opportunity to learn the way my daughter did. Can you imagine the creativity that would be unleashed? I feel like that's one of the few things in this world that we're doing the same as we were doing 50 years ago. And so, so that's one of the big things I would change if I could.
Well, now we're wrapping up just our conversation, and now it's time for your inquisitive questions, your curiosity about Chairman Carter. So I'd like to shift it over. We have some questions that have both been submitted, and we have a QR code if you want to submit your questions via your phone. And we will be bringing some questions to Mary Ann to answer.
All right, well, thank you to those who have submitted questions in advance. And again, this is a QR code that you can, we've got a few minutes. If you have a question, go ahead and use that, submit it, and we'll try to get to your question. We'll get through as many as we can given time. All right. Our first question, looking forward, is there a particular genre of the arts that you would most like to see amplified?
Okay, so my daughter's a dancer. That's her major in college, so if I didn't say dance, yeah, I might get screamed at. So dance. No, dance, obviously. I do love dance. And yes, my daughter is a dance major. And you will see kids with dyslexia, they're very creative. They tend to go into the arts. George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, some of the most creative people in our country grew up dyslexic. I should grew up dyslexic. They're still dyslexic. They just learn to deal with it better. Circus arts, I think, is fantastic. And we don't see much of it. You saw we had on the video brought in a group called Cirque Mechanics, and all the people who are involved with Cirque Mechanics worked in cirque shows at one time or another. They sort of aged out of the crazy stuff, and so but they travel around and they do various things. So I think circus arts is fantastic. I'm a big fan of culinary arts. We don't get enough of that, I think. But yeah, I'll stick with dance. That's my number one.
Okay, what is one misconception about the role of the arts in American communities that you wish every policymaker, civic leader understood? And how can arts organizations help change that perception?
So I talk about myths a lot, because there are so many about this agency. I probably could knock them all down right now, but I think one thing I think is really important, and if you remember anything that I say today, when you leave here, I would ask you to remember this. Arts programming should not be reflective of where you live or your proximity to philanthropy. And what I mean by that is we looked at the top 1,000 foundations that give to the arts. And because I consider myself a conservative Republican. I used to work at a conservative think tank. But what I would hear a lot is, and I know everyone in this room has heard it, private dollars can replace public dollars, right? It's a valid question. We all care about the budgets, whether it's state or federal or our local budget. And we all want to be good stewards of tax dollars. I know I do. But I had to be able to show, is that true? Could private dollars replace public dollars? And so after looking at the top 1,000 foundations that give to the arts, we realized that we actually had funding in almost a fourth of the nation that there were no private dollars in. So almost 25% of this nation gets no private money from the top 1,000 foundations that give to the arts, but they get National Endowment for the Arts. And you add in all of our programs and the states and everything like that, it's probably quite a bit higher that we fund that don't. And so just for your reference, and I have to stop there too. This is Oklahoma. Okay? So you have 77 counties. 20 of them do not get money from the top 1,000 foundations. That is 26. So that's over a fourth of your state that doesn't get money from private foundations. And so you know, however you want to say it, I just do not believe that Americans' access to arts programming should be based on their proximity to philanthropy. And I usually add the geography line in because you will see the areas that are funded tend to be very rural. And so where you live shouldn't matter either. So that is what I would leave everyone with if I was to say, remember one thing from this conversation.
That's the perfect segue to the next question, which is, what is the biggest change you see in the rural arts sector? Why are you excited about it?
In the rural arts?
The rural
So we actually did a great program with the National Assembly of State Art Agencies on rural America. And we have a report on our website on that too. Everyone has reports. One is we are recognizing much more now that rural areas perhaps are not getting the same amount of attention. We have made it, this started in my first tenure, an ambitious goal to make sure there are grants in every single congressional district across the country. So that's 435 congressional districts. Those are direct grants. And then through our state art agencies, we try to make sure at least every county is also getting some art money as well. I think that is working well. That getting back to your question also about the partnerships. You know, the more local the government, obviously, the more they know where money might need to go and who it should go to, what organizations are out there. So another reason why I'm a big supporter of the federal-state partnership is I believe in limited government. I believe in local government. I think government closest to the people knows best how to spend those dollars. And so that's one thing. I think the partnerships have gotten stronger. And I think there is a lot of trust and faith. I mean, obviously, this being my second time, that helped because everyone, for the most part, knew me already. But that is a great relationship, and that's one way we know rural areas are getting some arts programming money. The other thing is I mean, one thing we learned through COVID was how we can utilize video now, Zoom and Teams, Teams or whatever they call themselves. Because we know telehealth has come a really long way, especially for rural America. But that's going to be true of arts and health also. You know, doctors are going to be able to, doctors are already prescribing arts as part of their clinical treatment plan, but there's more access now. There's just more programming online that the rural communities can get access to. But what we also saw, especially during COVID, was people started moving out and we started moving into more rural areas. And I have seen theaters pop up. I have seen, like art centers pop up in rural areas that didn't have it before, but people moved into those areas to get out of the city or away from people. And all of a sudden you start seeing new things pop up. So you'd be surprised at the number of amazing art centers or artists in rural communities where you think nothing might exist. And so some of the best artists we see come out of rural America. And it just goes to my point about all Americans need access. Doesn't matter who they are or where they live.
Okay, what are some outcomes you've seen in low-income areas following greater access to the arts?
So interestingly, low-income areas actually always have access to the arts if they're in urban environments. That's where a lot of foundation money goes to, and I think it's great. I think it's amazing. You want as many people as you can going through museums or participating in whatever genre of arts it might be. So if we're talking kids in particular, sorry, I gotta keep this more here. As I mentioned earlier, we see better grades. We see lower absenteeism in school. We see less behavioral issues. And again, this is all empirical data. It all shows. So I think that has been by far one of the benefits. But again, Joel, it always gets back to the one thing that I guess this is what I truly believe is everyone should have access. So if people are going to people are going to benefit in different ways. I have heard people say, I went to the theater when I was in 5th grade and it changed my life. So I don't know that I can answer because a lot of it is anecdotal. But I know the U.S. Senator from Rhode Island, he told me when he went to the Trinity Center, which is in Rhode Island, which is where every 5th grader goes in 5th grade, it changed his life. And it was such an amazing story. And do you know, after he told me this, 2 days later, I'm having a meeting with Tim Daly. You know who, the cute guy from Wayne? Well, I know him from Wayne, so I'm sure everyone else knows him from Madam Secretary or something. So I had a meeting with him, and he was telling me how he got to start at this place called Trinity in Rhode Island. Wait, what? So it was amazing to me. But in Rhode Island's smaller, so obviously it's easier. But then every 5th grader in the state goes to this place to see a show, and they all remember it. And so, you know, Rhode Island, you're gonna have rich kids, you're gonna have poor kids, and but they all remember this shared experience, no matter how old they are, whatever. And you know, if they're 5 years older than the next person, they still have that same shared experience.
Okay, so we touched on technology just a bit, and you mentioned video and improving access to that. How do you see AI affecting the arts? This is possibly
I'll tell you what I worry about AI because I actually think AI is fascinating. I think it is scary. I think it's fascinating. I have found that for my child, AI is a game changer. I mean, just if you have a child who has some learning differences, AI is going to change their life. I'll tell you what I worry about the most. I worry that artists are not going to be properly compensated. I think that is a huge problem. I think work is probably already being taken, thrown into all these systems, and I don't know how you recover from that. I think that, you know, this whole pirating issue, that was at a time, you know, there was legislation to do something about it, and, you know, I guess maybe you can do legislation, but I think it's too late in so many situations. So my biggest worry about AI is that artists will not be properly compensated for their intellectual property, and I think that's a real problem.
Poetry Out Loud. We have a question, or actually a comment. So this is one of your successes that you continue to make happen in DC, and a request for you to just share a little bit about Poetry Out Loud and our state Poetry Out Loud, which we partner with here in the state. We partner with Oklahoma Plus Schools, and Sandy Kent runs that on their behalf. We'll work with them on that as executive director. Just can you share a little bit about Poetry Out Loud?
I love Poetry Out Loud. Poetry Out Loud is our high school recitation poetry contest. 150,000 kids across the nation compete almost every single year, which is pretty amazing. They put down their phone, they go find a poem, they learn it, they memorize it, and then they recite it in front of strangers. Pretty awesome when you think about it. And they don't just do it once, they do it 3 times because they have to have 3 poems. It's an amazing program. Any high school student, so homeschooled, private school, public school, can participate. And sometimes you just have to figure out if you're homeschooled, you might participate in your local school district. And I hope all schools promote it. So if there is an educator in here and you've never heard about this and you work at a high school, please look into it because it is you talk about a program that changes kids' lives. You know, I mean, you know, we all know kids who are in high school right now, and you know, how many of them even look you in the eye and say hi? I mean, it's always like, at least that's my kid. And it's an amazing program, and then when you see these kids perform. And you know, some of them have probably never spoken in public before, and the confidence this program in particular builds is so mind-blowing. And so, poetry out loud, high school poetry recitation contest, kids pick their own poem, learn it, recite it, hopefully learn about the poet. Don't tell them they're learning anything, though. Let's think it's a competition, and it's really magnificent.
Okay, what involvement does the NEA have in promoting the growing film industry outside New York and LA? And all know we are among a few states that are really seeing a lot of growth in that area. We have the director of the Film and Music Office is here this afternoon. So,
What's the question?
the question was, what involvement does the NEA have in promoting the growing film industry outside of New York and Los Angeles?
So we do offer grants to various film festivals and some independent, but we fund nonprofits. And so most emerging film industries are for-profit. And so it's not as often that we even get applications for that. I do know that there are so many states, you know, it goes back and forth. They look for tax breaks, you know, they look for ways to bring the movie industry in. And certainly we see that, you know, the film industry is willing to move away from Hollywood. And so my guess is we'll see a lot more states begin to offer. Some states I know, like Illinois, has a film office. So, you know, they have an arts council, but then they also have the Illinois Film Office, so.
Back to the discussion of arts and health, how can we work towards a future that includes social prescribing, where doctors and insurers collaborate with or refer to arts organizations for physical and mental well-being?
So whoever asked this, thank you, I love this question. I am so convinced that this is the future of the arts. Next year, in February, we're holding a conference with the Ferris Foundation, Texas Children's Hospital, and MD Anderson on therapeutic arts in pediatric cancer wards. And then later in the year, we're actually going to be holding a huge conference, an international conference on arts and health. So we do a lot of research in this area, and I have our team pull a bunch of research on this. And right now, we know neurologists, they're looking at dance in terms of Parkinson patients, music for dementia patients. And then doctors are prescribing, you know, for a heart patient, they might prescribe a museum visit. And so everyone is doing different things, but they're all siloed right now. And so I know that if a neurologist is looking at this, that is probably going to be beneficial to someone over here also. And so I feel like we need to thread it all together now and be able, one of the main things that I want to be able to do after this conference is, and it will be doctors, and it will be our medical schools, and it will be public health officials, and it will be artists, and it will be elected officials, and because no one can do this alone. Everyone has to work together on this. And, but we now need a better idea. We need an overall vision as opposed to everyone having their own single vision. And what I want people to be able to walk away from this conference with is, instead of writing a white paper 3 months later, is to say, I saw a demonstration on how this movement helped patients with these different diseases. And it's so cheap, I can implement it at our hospital or at our medical facility or at our nursing home within the next week. That's what I'm looking to do. So I just can't explain how I feel this is such, by the way, we're an aging population. And unless something starts drastically happening, we're gonna maintain that, let's say the over 50s are going to outweigh the under 50s. And, we're living longer, but we're still gonna have issues and problems. And so these are so many of the ways to keep people younger at least, and fit. And we just have to, but none of us understand it enough yet. We understand our portion of it, our little silo of it, but there needs to be a much broader understanding of how the arts work all together with everything.
Okay, last question. With federal legislation already taking shape, the budget next year, conversations taking place, how can those of us gathered here today help and make the case for the importance of public funding for the arts for the river?
Okay, well, I hope I made the case already, but I've got charts. And again, the fact that where you live, your proximity to philanthropy should not affect your ability to program the arts or for arts programming. I mean, that is the message that I'm asking everyone to walk away with. That is, I believe, the best message to give when anyone says, why are we using public dollars? Because private dollars aren't enough. That's why. And by the way, the communities that aren't getting that money are probably represented by the people who are actually saying, why are we spending this money? So we not just have Oklahoma, but we have the entire nation. We have every state done like this, plus the entire nation. But again, the biggest argument is that the arts are for everybody, and why would we shut someone out because they're not close to foundations or to the philanthropy money, and it's a very sellable. And again, then you can go into the arts and health. You can talk about the veterans. You can talk about arts with helping the military right now. You can talk about the return on investment. You can talk about the economics of it also. I mean, there's the messaging is there. We just need to utilize it whenever we can.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for answering this time, Barbara and Vice Chair John Kennedy can back to the podium. We have a couple minutes of time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the encouragement. I'm coming out very encouraged. I appreciate that. Chairman Carter, on behalf of the Oklahoma Arts Council and the entire state art sector, we are serving in partnership with the National Endowment for the Arts. We would like to present you with a special token of our appreciation. Created by local artists Rick and Tracy Booley and commissioned by our agency, this handmade work of glass art incorporates the star emblem from the logos of the Oklahoma Arts Council and the state of Oklahoma.
Say you asked great questions.
I've driven John crazy the whole time. I just want y'all to know.
Very insightful and brilliant. We have one group we didn't recognize. With those here who love Oklahoma, please raise your hand. We're pleased to present one more expression of our appreciation to you. Governor Kevin Stitt provided a special commendation recognizing you and the National Endowment of the Arts for your service to Oklahomans. And I'm happy to present it to you, his commendation. Be it resolved that the governor's commendation is hereby presented to Mary Ann Carter in recognition of your exceptional leadership and dedicated service as chair of the National Endowment for the Arts. Through your vision and commitment, you have strengthened partnerships between the NEA and states across this nation, including Oklahoma, while advancing initiatives that enrich communities through the arts. Your leadership has helped inspire innovative programs throughout Oklahoma, supported the celebration of Oklahoma's 250th anniversary and the Route 66 centennial, and reaffirmed the important role the arts play. Thank you for your steadfast support of Oklahoma's arts community and for your commitment to fostering the American creative spirit. We are honored by your visit to our great state, and we wish you continued success. I think I'm going to go ahead and write on here, declaring July Mary Ann Carter Month. So as Chairman Carter and Barbara and Amber now exit the stage and rejoin the audience, I'd like you to recognize them just one more time. We're going to welcome back to the stage Comanche flutist Tim Navaquaya, who will conclude our afternoon with a final performance. And following his performance, please enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you very much.
So this song here is in honor of Chairman Carter. And I want to thank her for coming down and sharing the information with us and enjoying our great state. And this one's for you.